Hello everyone, and welcome to this video. In today's video, we'll be looking at correlational research. So for those that are students in a particular college, university, and any other, okay, maybe you're just doing research and you just want to refresh this kind of stuff about research. So this is something that you have to pay attention to, and obviously for those that have never actually done this kind of study, or rather have not gained any kind of a skill when it comes to this kind of research, this is something that you have to pay much attention. So before we dive into what is correlational research, I just want to say that for those that have not subscribed, like the page and also share this video. So make sure if you're watching from my TikTok, you follow me. If you're watching from my Facebook, you like the page, and also you follow this page for more of these kind of videos. Okay, now without much further ado, let's now look at what is correlational research. Okay, so now when you talk about correlational research, what is it that you're talking about? Okay, and when do you actually use this kind of research? So I'll just kind of give you a brief sort of like a general overview of what is correlational research. Okay, so when you talk about correlational research, it's something that is able to actually just look at two variables that are correlated, okay, or they are somehow related in whatever ways we were trying to find out. Okay, so this, we are saying that okay. So now when you talk about this kind of research, we are simply trying to ask a question, okay? We say these two variables that we are going to use in our research, okay? How related are these variables, okay? How related are these variables? So because you can't do this kind of research minus understanding, okay, maybe the relationship between the two kind of variables, okay? So for instance, you might talk about, so now you might talk about these two kind of variables, okay? So we can talk about the height of an object, or rather maybe you're just trying to understand the relationship between the height as well as the weight of maybe participants, or whatever research, whatever kind of literature review that you have read, and maybe you have discovered that height and weight, they are actually related to each other. And if they are related to each other, then obviously it's going to be possible for me to be able to, predict the height of somebody based on their weight. Okay, so okay, so now what you're saying is that let's say, for example, if we ask people, let's say participant in the research that I'm conducting. So if I can ask people like maybe I do, let's say for example, I do a data collection, okay? Maybe okay, let's say for example, I do a data collection, okay? Now this data collection, let's say for example, the height is 2.3, maybe 1.5, maybe 2.1. Okay, so now we can actually predict the weight of a particular participant or individual in this research based on the height of that. Okay, so let's just say, okay, this one is 50, maybe this one is going to be 25, maybe this one is going to be, let's just say 20. Okay, so now if these two things are related to each other, if they have some relationship, okay, that if I know the height, okay, that if the height of this person is 2.3, okay, then the weight of this person is going to be 50, let's say maybe 50 kg or 50 newtons, okay. If the height of the person is 1.5, then it is going to be 25, okay, and then just like that, okay. So if there is a relationship, if I can use the height of the participant or individuals in that particular research to determine or to predict the height of the next person, meaning I don't have to go one by one, okay, each individual in the research or those participants or respondents, I don't have to just maybe if I have what if I have maybe 1,000 people that I'm trying to determine their height, I mean their weight based on the height. So if I understand that there is a relationship, there is a pattern, okay, that is following up. If the height of this person is this, then I can understand that the weight of that person is going to be ABCD. Then I can just do maybe 20 of them or maybe 50 of them, and then the rest of that I can just figure out based on that. Okay, so if there is a relationship between the height and the weight, okay, then it becomes very easy for us to be able to predict based on what we have. And this is normally what is actually used in marketing, what is used maybe advertisement, and all these kind of predictive analysis, okay. But you have to understand the basics of correlational research, okay. How do you go about this one? What kind of relationship? We are also looking at maybe the coefficient of this relationship that you're looking at, okay. Is the relationship very strong, or is the relationship very just weak, or there is no relationship at all, okay. So now, the other thing that you must be able to understand, okay, now sometimes when it comes to this kind of research, okay, so you also need to understand, first of all, you have what is called the correlational, the correlation coefficient, okay, or what is the relationship coefficient between the variables that are being, considered, or those that you're trying to compare, okay. So the relationship could be very strong, and also the relationship could be very weak, and also there could be no relationship at all, okay. That's the most important thing to understand. So once you understand these two kind of a thing, then you are trying to now have the necessary skill that you require for you to understand to perform a correlational analysis or kind of a research, okay. So now the relationship if could be positive, okay, and then it could also be negative, and also it could be zero, meaning there is no relationship, okay. So sometimes okay, so now what you need to understand is the coefficient of relationship is actually referred, or actually denoted by the letter R, okay. So this is letter R, and It simply means that stand for the relationship coefficient. Okay, so the coefficient has no units. Okay, so the coefficient of relationship could be positive. Okay, so this could be like that, positive R, and then could be a negative R, or even just 0. Okay, so now how do you know that there is a positive relationship, there is a negative relationship, and then there is no relationship, or rather zero relationship? So this implies that when you're comparing two variables, and then there is a formula that I'm going to show you in the next video that can be used to help us understand or determine the coefficient of relationship, or rather coefficient of relationship, yeah, which is just R. So if it is positive, then there is a strong relationship. If it is negative, then the relationship exists, but the relationship isn't that strong. Okay, if the value is actually 0, okay, then there is no relationship. There is no need for us to go, or rather to continue doing our research, or to continue doing whatever that you're doing that is correlational based. Okay. Now, sometimes some of the things like mostly correlational research is non-experimental. Okay, it is normally done on things that we cannot actually experiment, but based on the previous research that has been done, we can actually do something. Okay, for instance, I'll give an example. For instance, if we are trying to determine if a relationship do exist between okay. So sometimes we can do we can do a study which you're trying to say that smoking causes cancer. Okay, that smoking causes cancer. Okay, so now how do you conduct an experiment? Something to do with these two kind of variables. Okay, it is actually okay. It is not even practical. It is impractical, not ethical to do this kind of research, so that we can now understand if a relationship do exist between smoking as well as having cancer. Okay, it is very difficult for this kind of research to be conducted. So the only way we can do this kind of an experiment is actually to collect some of the information, okay, based on the people that have been smoking, okay, but not to carry an experiment to see whether somebody is going to have cancer by giving them, a number of cigarettes so that they can smoke it, so that you can observe if there is they are going to develop this kind of a disease, cancer. Okay, but we can just do some literature review, maybe not a correlational research, but something that was data collected, that has been collected. Maybe you just say, I want people that smokes, okay? I want people that have smoked for the past maybe 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. And I want to ask them questions to say, in the past 5 years, okay, that we have been smoking, okay, have you ever actually developed this kind of a disease called cancer? In the past 10 years, in the past 20 years, in the past whatever, specific period that you want to focus on. Okay, now if that is the case, then we can be able to indicate whether they were actually diagnosed with cancer or not. So based on the number of years that somebody has been smoking, okay, we can actually understand if smoking and cancer is related, in the sense that if you smoke maybe 5 years, you're going to have cancer. If you smoke less than 5 years, you're not going to have cancer. Okay, so from that, it is some sort of like predictive analysis that we can use, or that correlational research can actually be used to predict, okay, something that is going to occur to the next thing. Okay, maybe for the next 10 years, we can actually predict to say if we are going to have many people, many young people that are smoking drugs or that are smoking cigarettes, in the coming 50 years or 30 years, okay, each one of those people that do smoke, or that whoever actually smoked to that number of years, is going to have, or rather develop cancer. So it is sort of like helps us to develop, or rather to understand what is going to happen in the next, kind of an event, whatever that is. So one thing that you should understand is okay, so it is actually something good to understand where do you actually apply correlational research. So we are just saying that correlational research, these are research that are good for things that cannot be experimented on, okay? That cannot be experimented on, okay? So you can't actually, do an analysis based on the fact that to understand if somebody has got a mental problem, okay, a mental problem with regards to performance, okay. So somebody who performs well, we can predict if that person has a mental disability or not, or even just a cognitive kind of disability, okay. If we find that they have a cognitive disability, then if this action on the other hand says that they are not going to perform very well. So obviously, if that is what is explaining in terms of performance, then that is going to be a correspondence. There's going to be a correspondence to the next person, to the next person. Otherwise, if that is not the case, then you are going to be very surprised, and we want now to conduct a research furthermore, so that if somebody has got a cognitive disability and they perform very well, okay, we have then to ask ourselves to say, what is actually influencing this person not to behave like the others, okay. So that's the importance of research, okay. You don't just conduct research because you are conducting research, but you're doing that in order to establish some of the some of the things that are puzzling you, okay, some of the things that are puzzling you. That is why we conduct research, okay. We know that people it's not the case that people that come from the rich family, they're the one that performs very well, because there is a lot of factors that are going to explain, or that are actually do influence performance, okay. It's not just when you come from the rich family, or from the well-to-do family, like for example Riverside, Parklands, Canais, all these sort of like rich family that are doing well. It is not that it is not going to be a direct correspondence that they're going to perform well at school, because the environment does not actually predict your performance, okay. It just one of the factors, okay. But there is so many factors that may predict our performance at school, okay. So that's about correlational research, okay. So one thing that you need to understand is that correlational kind of research allows us to make prediction from one variable to another, to one another. If two variables are correlated, we can predict from one variable to the other with a certain degree of accuracy. Okay, and that's one thing that you need to understand. So therefore, correlational studies are conducted for various reasons. Okay, it is not. I'm not saying that it is non-experimental. Okay, but you have to look at what is it that you are comparing? What variables do you want to determine if they are correlated or if they are related? Okay, so if they are related and you are looking at smoking versus cancer, it is very impractical and unethical to to actually admit somebody with a cigarette and then you are there observing, because maybe it will take maybe 10 years, okay, and that's not research, okay. It must be something that is doable within within the space and time, okay. We shouldn't actually just be doing research for the sake of doing, because we want to find out why this is happening, why this is not happening. So you can't perform an experiment on smoking and cancer, okay? But you can go to the hospital and get some of these information, okay? Maybe for a period of 10 years, for a period of 20 years, or even 30 years. You go there, you get the results, and then you start doing the analysis, and then you come up with the table, and then the age that you're looking at, because maybe the age has something to do with cancer. Okay, that could also be one of the predictive factor that could help us to predict if somebody is going to have cancer. Okay, somebody may be smoking, okay, for the past maybe 20 years, and they are 20, let's say for example for the past 30 years, and they started at the age of 10 or 12, let's just say for the sake of understanding, okay. So you find that because they are still young, it is not easy for this cancer to develop, okay. But for people that are in their old age, okay, maybe 50 years or 60 years, maybe you find that the age is something that is causing the cancer, okay. It is not just the smoking itself, okay. It is not just the smoking, okay. So the level of smoking, how long somebody has been smoking, coupled with how old, okay, how old somebody is, may influence cancer, okay. So in the next coming video, what you're going to do now, we are going to come up with some statistical mathematical formula, okay. Statistical formulas for correlational coefficient of correlational, and how you can just do the whole of this research of correlational research. So thank you so much for watching. Remember to support, subscribe, and also like this video. For more, if you want to learn more about research, statistics, and research methodology, please remember to share this video, subscribe to it, and also follow and like the Facebook page. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video. It's bye-bye.